All right, descend into a little bit of barrel madness with me right quick. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me again. I get a lot of questions about the type of components I would recommend putting into rifle builds, specifically AR-15s. So today I'm gonna cover in this video a breakdown of some of my top recommendations for AR-15 barrels in both low tier, mid tier, and top tier. Now these are just based on my experiences, okay? So I'm not gonna talk about barrels that I haven't really shot or built on a whole lot. I'm really mainly just gonna stick to what I have known and used over the last probably 20 years of building rifles and stuff like that. So stick around. Thank you for joining me again. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna break them down into low tier, mid tier, and top tier. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean price, okay? So the price is not always reflected in low tier, low quality stuff, so far as there are some very overpriced barrels out there that are pretty low tier in my opinion, as far as accuracy and reliability and quality and that kind of stuff. So I just broke them down into these general tiers of affordability and quality, kind of all encompassing. Low tier on the list for me kind of equates to a barrel that can use for your basic carbine, your beater barrels, something you want to bang steel with and stuff like that. But you may still need something a little bit, I guess, higher grade in accuracy and performance, but you don't want to break the bank doing it. So for my low tier, entry level barrels, I would recommend Faxon barrels or Ballistic Advantage. These are two companies that I have sourced some barrels from in the past, quite a few actually, and I've used them in multiple calibers, AR-15 style calibers, you know, even AR-10 calibers, and I found some pretty decent quality so far as the machining of the barrel itself and general accuracy, what you can expect from that type of barrel. Now, your accuracy potential and your accuracy needs are going to differ depending on what kind of rifle you're building. So these are what I would call kind of your entry-level barrels or your basic barrels for building a basic AR, recce style carbine, combat carbine, maybe an SBR or a pistol or something like that. Faxon Firearms and Ballistic Advantage, they make some pretty darn decent barrels. I've got several of each here that I've used. This one is a Faxon I used with 6 arc, and it was a 16-inch barrel. I had some pretty good results out of this as far as accuracy goes. I actually did get some pretty consistent sub-minute groups out of it. So it was a decent barrel for not a whole lot of money. Moving up a little bit from that is Ballistic Advantage, which I have 1, 2, 3. I had probably 2 or 3 of them sitting up here from Ballistic Advantage, and or barrels that Ballistic Advantage have made for other companies like Aero Precision, and I believe they were making some barrels for Brownells at one point, which I do have some of those as well and have used in the past. Ballistic Advantage is a good all-around barrel manufacturer so far as quality of machining, fit, finish, and function, lengths, caliber options, gas system options, that kind of thing, gas length options, fluting versus non-fluting, all kinds of good, cool stuff that Ballistic Advantage does. And their quality is actually pretty high when it comes to accuracy as well. I've gotten some really good, accurate barrels from Ballistic. I can't think of a whole lot of really negative experiences I've had with them. Maybe 1 or 2 quirks along the way that I picked up a barrel and it just wouldn't work in this, that, or the other, and I've usually sent it back to them and have gotten a replacement barrel pretty happily in its stead, and been happy with the result at the end of the day. They're not what I would consider a match grade barrel, but they can get match grade accuracy. So keep that in mind when it comes to what you're looking for and versus what you're going to spend for it. Now, moving up into the mid tier, these are barrels that I would consider to be a little bit higher quality, sometimes maybe a little bit higher price than the low tier, but so far as just quality of the barrel, longevity of the barrel, the way it's machined and stuff like that, given the category too, like you have to break it down in the categories. And they may not have quite as many options for barrels as something like Ballistic Advantage or Faxon does, or some of the other companies out there. So some of my recommendations for that mid tier would be something like Wilson Combat. I've had great results from their barrels. I really love the way they machine their barrels. They're very attractive looking barrels, and they work really well as far as accuracy. They make a lot of lightweight profiles. They have a pretty good catalog of calibers available, and kind of a pretty decent catalog of like machining styles available so far as barrel profile goes and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to love there with the Wilson Combat. They make some great rifles. It's one of those companies, if you get a barrel from them, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I've used them in a lot of AR-10s. Surprisingly, more AR-10s than AR-15s have I used Wilson Combat barrels, and I've gotten good results out of them, especially with accuracy. Like, they really do make a pretty darn decent accurate barrel. Another one in the mid-tier, what I would consider a mid-tier category, would be Daniel Defense. Daniel Defense really kind of specializes in combat style barrels, or, you know, like AR15, you know, patrol rifles and carbines and that kind of thing. Those type of barrels, that category of AR-15 barrel, and they do a pretty darn good job. I think they offer some chrome line stuff as well, so you have your mil spec grade stuff, like mil spec, you know, better than mil spec, but that category of rifle barrel you can get from them, and they do a pretty darn decent job with that. I've always liked them as I've used them, or as I've used the firearms that they actually build. I've never really had a negative experience with the Daniel Defense barrel. Maybe not the most, you know, half-minute or quarter-minute accurate barrels in the world in a lot of instances, but they are pretty darn good barrels. An honorable mention in the mid-tier for me, and I've only had, this is a brief experience I've had with them. They are, I struggle because they're overpriced, and that's Noveske. Noveske barrels are really good barrels, but they're really overpriced, in my opinion. So they're good barrels, maybe even close to the top tier. And some people would argue they are top tier, but I think the price on those things doesn't necessarily justify what you're getting out of the barrel. That's just a limited experience with Noveske. I have not heard people that hate their barrels. I haven't experienced or talked to anyone that it has a Noveske barrel that hates it and hates the thing. It's just the price of it, really. It's like the price versus what you're getting. Is it a match grade quality barrel? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe in some instances, maybe in some calibers, who knows? That's just my limited experience with Noveske though. All right, and so top tier for me, let's move into that one. And I'm not just talking about overpriced barrels, I'm talking high quality barrels, and you can get them for less expensive than some of the other barrels out there. But to me, top tier doesn't just mean you put a really big, stupid, obnoxious price on that thing and call it the best barrel ever made. You know, something like Proof Research. $800 for an AR-15 barrel is obscene. It is, it just is. You're out of your mind. So some of the ones on my top tier list, Rainier Arms. Rainier Arms is a company that originated in Washington. I believe they've moved to Oklahoma, or they have a group in Oklahoma doing stuff out of there now. And Rainier Arms sources their barrels from some top barrel manufacturers. They have a match and an ultra match line. Their match line, great mid-tier stuff, great high quality stuff. Their ultra match line is ultra match. It's high quality, high grade. You're talking in the neighborhood of a categorical barrel like a Krieger or Bartlein, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the quality of the ultra match barrels, and the ones I've experienced and used, they've definitely lived up to it. They're a little bit higher on the price point. They're not obscene. You know, you're looking at about $400 for some of their barrels. So they are up there a little ways, but they are worth it. They are worth the price you're gonna pay, and you'll get the accuracy you need to out of those barrels. Shaw Custom Barrels is another one online. Shaw Custom Barrels, they do a lot of OEM manufacturing for a lot of people out there. So there's a lot of barrels in the industry. They're actually made by Shaw. They're branded X, Y, and Z or whatever. And so far, from what I've experienced with the 3 or 4 different barrels I've used from them, and the ones I've built for people, a few others after that, pretty darn good accuracy. Really affordable prices, like not at the high end of the high tier price, but you know, mid to low of the high priced AR-15 barrels. Really great quality, really great machining and consistency, and some options there. You have a little bit of customizable options you can get from Shaw on their website, which is also an awesome thing if you need to kind of customize what you're looking for. All right, White Oak Armament, I'm gonna talk about them next. So far as just basic AR-15 barrels go, for service rifle and match rifle, that type of stuff, White Oak Armament's pretty hard to beat. I have some fantastic White Oak Armament barrels here. Even when I was getting into the 224 Valkyrie, I had them, you know, spin me up a couple in a custom profile and stuff like that, with a custom twist rate, 6.5 twist on these, you know, specifically the 224 Valkyrie. It's got a 6.5 twist. I tried a custom gas length, but it wasn't really necessary. So rifle gas, all that good stuff. This is an SPR profile barrel from White Oak. This one, I had a few of these. I built a few of these. I think I got like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. So I had a big old batch of barrels made. And man, they made some really great shooting rifles. They really did. We're talking sub-minute all the way. White Oak Armament is the way to go. They don't offer a lot of calibers out there so far as in compared to some of the other manufacturers I've talked about. White Oak Armament kind of has a narrow catalog. But they do make some fantastic barrels, especially if you're looking at just basic 223 stuff. If you're looking to build DMRs out of the, you know, like the kind of H-bar profile or DMR profile, 16-inch and 18 and 20-inch barrels for the 5.56 specifically, or 223 Wild or whatever, make some high-grade stuff. White Oak Armaments, definitely would recommend them for a top-tier barrel. And one of my last suggestions for top tier would be Lothar Walther. Lothar Walther, German company. They are not the easiest to find and not the easiest to source at all times, or usually sometimes in their barrel profiles. They don't have a huge catalog of barrel profiles either for the AR-15. They have kind of not narrow, but they have a very, you know, broken down category for your AR-15 and AR-10s. You can get OEM manufacturing from them. You can get custom barrels from them, but it's a costly endeavor. Their barrels are very high grade. They use a little bit different steel to what you would normally see in a high grade barrel like a 416 stainless. They use kind of a chromoly style type of steel, but it's a really high grade chromoly steel that has very, very long wear characteristics, and they're extremely well manufactured, and they are extremely accurate. My top favorite overall, I go back and forth on this a lot, but one of the barrel manufacturers I do reach for more than most when it comes to my private builds, if I can find what I want from them, is actually Wilson Combat. I don't really know why. I just kind of have an affinity for their barrels. The way they make their barrels, the way they machine their barrels, and the way they look. This is a 308 barrel I've used. It's only got not very many rounds down through it at all. Actually, I need to put it back on a rifle. This is kind of a lighter weight hunting profile barrel. It was extremely accurate, 18-inch barrel. And yeah, I just like the way they machine their stuff, and I like the way it looks. I like the presentation. Lothar Walther is also, again, a top pick for me, but getting their barrels in the profile type and style you want is not always the easiest thing. I've been leaning more towards 6 arc than anything in my AR-15s lately, so I've kind of had to play the field when it comes to, you know, what barrel manufacturers I can get in the profiles, links, and the design and style I'm looking for. So Wilson Combat doesn't offer a whole lot for the 6 arc yet, and Lothar Walther, I haven't seen a whole lot from them for the 6 arc yet either. So just based on caliber considerations, a lot of the times you end up with something different to what you may, you know, want from any given manufacturer. Rainier Arms, the Ultra Match, they have a 16 and an 18 and a 14-inch 6 arc barrel that I actually want to try all 3 from them and give them a shot and just see how they go with the 6 arc, because I haven't actually tried one from Rainier yet in the 6 arc. All right, that's it. Quick and dirty breakdown. If you're looking for everything from the highest of high-end Ultra Match Uchi Goober, you know, barrels, this is what I've experienced so far. If you have different experiences out there, you've found some really great barrels, put it in the comments below. Share with the community. Let us know what you like to build on. Those are some of my higher recommendations, or some of my top recommendations in those categories, low, mid, and top tier barrels that I would grab and be like, okay, I can build a good rifle out of this. I know it'll work for me well. I'm not gonna have any problems down the road for the most part, and everything will be fine. That's it for me today. Y'all remember to keep your knife sharp and your powder dry. Y'all have a blessed day.